This is episode 300 of Weekly Dose of Aviation, and to celebrate this milestone, I gathered the best videos from the series and put them together in this special 3-hour episode for you guys to enjoy. First up is this Airbus A310 that was making a low pass when it suddenly turned left and nearly struck its wing. Whoa! This happened at an airshow in Portugal, this plane almost hitting people while landing at St. Bartholomew's Airport. This Airbus A380 making a dangerously steep climb. This was intentional at an airshow in Paris. This Airbus A321neo coming in unusually low, almost hitting spectators while landing in Skiathos, Greece. This pilot had to land on a busy highway after an engine failure. Managed to land in a curve and avoid the cars, and this happened in North Carolina. This Boeing 757 was taking off from Spain when the right-hand engine suffered repeated compressor stalls, causing flames to shoot out of it and forcing the plane to divert to a nearby airport. The plane later landed safely. These two pilots attempted to swap planes mid-air by both of them jumping out and landing inside the other plane. One of the pilots managed to do it while the second plane entered a spin. The second plane crashed to the ground while the pilot landed safely using a parachute. The stunt was done by Red Bull, and luckily no one was injured. This Boeing 727 was overloaded and took off at the last second, spraying debris onto people at the end of the runway. This student pilot entered a spin as a training maneuver, and the instructor explained how you get out of one.
Okay, full backstick, full rudder. Go. Go. Look at the airspeed.
Yeah.
And call out whether it's stable or not.
Yeah.
Stable. Look at the altitude.
Yeah.
Call off every.
Yeah, that's 0 now. I like
6,000.
6,000.
Let go of this. Just keep the stick back like that. Yeah.
5.5.
You can let go of the stick.
Let go of the stick.
It doesn't do anything. See.
Okay. It's scaring me.
5,000. Okay, coming up to 4.5.
Yeah.
So hands on the dash.
Hands on the dash.
Opposite rudder. Push that rudder. Push that rudder. Push it. Push. 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 Push.
Push, push.
There you go. Now grab the stick and pull out the dive.
Fucking hell.
3,200 feet.
This Airbus A350 struggling to take off as it only has one functioning engine and half its usual power. This Boeing 777 aborting its takeoff and applying full rudder. This led to the plane literally drifting across the runway. This Boeing 737 took off but turned too much, causing the bank angle alarm to go off.
Bank angle.
This Boeing 737 was too heavy and could barely take off before the end of the runway. This Boeing 747 struck a bird while taking off from an airport in India. This Boeing 737 had a tail strike while taking off from Iceland, as you can hear by the distinct sound. In most cases, the plane would return back to the airport, but in this case, the pilots decided to continue to their destination. The Airbus A330 hit a light pole while taxiing. Even though this wasn't during takeoff, it was close to it and resulted in minor damage, but luckily no one was injured. This trailer getting blown over by a Boeing 777 jet blast. This was done as a test and no one was injured. This Airbus A350 landing at London Heathrow was battling a crosswind and ended up landing a lot harder than usual, resulting in this.
Oh, easy! Oh my flipping heck! Wow! I'm surprised that's not touch and go, mate.
This RX Airbus A340 that barely managed to take off before the end of the runway. This Boeing 747 destroying the terrain next to the runway while taking off. The runway recently had new sod put down next to it, and that was no match for the powerful 747. This DHL Airbus A300 was taking off from Amsterdam when it suffered a bird strike. Pilots contacted the tower, but decided to continue the flight and landed safely at its destination. This Boeing 747 was about to take off from Miami, but as it started its takeoff roll, the engine failed, resulting in smoke and an aborted takeoff. This overloaded plane used every inch of the runway and barely took off at the last second. This Boeing 757 was taking off when it had an engine failure, causing a fire in the engine. Fire crews quickly responded to the scene, and this happened at John Wayne Airport in California. This Airbus A330 was taking off when at the last second a flock of birds struck the plane, causing damage to the engine. The engine started vibrating, so the pilots declared an emergency and had to return to the airport. The plane then had to land while overweight since it was supposed to burn its fuel from Dublin to Chicago. The C5M Galaxy took off too slow, forcing the Airbus A330 behind it to go around. This PC-12 was following close behind a Black Hawk helicopter when it suddenly got caught in the helicopter's rotor downwash, almost resulting in a crash.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. He caught the...
Luckily, the pilot reacted quickly and saved it. This helicopter struck some high voltage power lines while doing a rescue exercise. Luckily, they were able to recover and no one was injured. This Boeing 757 suffered a problem with its landing gear, forcing it to use the emergency gear extension system. This basically unlocks the landing gear doors and lets gravity pull the landing gear down. This is also why the doors are still open. The plane then made an emergency landing with a blown tire and was met by fire crews.
Sorry for the shakies. Oh, he's floating. Oh, I think he popped the tire. Crap. Oh, something's wrong. Yeah. Oh my. Oh, the gear's on fire. The right mains are on fire.
7 right,
oh, this runway is going to be shut
be a
down
little
for a
while.
while.
This water bomber bouncing multiple times before finally settling down to scoop up water. This Beach Duke was landing when it blew a tire and went off the runway. It then had a propeller strike while trying to taxi back on its own. This passenger was on board a Boeing 737 flying into Salt Lake City and captured this lightning strike. This Airbus A350 making a rejected takeoff test with its brakes smoking. These two F-18s flying too low over a football game in Atlanta. The pilots flew at just a few hundred feet above the stadium, which was below the 1,000 feet minimum required by US Navy rules. Because of this, the pilots were permanently grounded. This Boeing 767 struggling to land, bouncing multiple times down the runway. This Boeing 737 took off but turned too much, causing the bank angle alarm to go off.
Bank angle.
This Boeing 737 was too heavy and could barely take off before the end of the runway. This Boeing 757 was forced to land too fast due to its flaps being stuck in the takeoff position. The plane landed while going 160 knots and was met by fire services. This Boeing 767 was landing at an airport in Brazil, but came in low and almost hit the mountain wall before the runway. This plane, trying to land in a crosswind, was sent into a nosedive by the extreme winds above the runway. The plane was forced to go around and attempt the landing again. This plane has to nosedive for the runway to be able to land. This is St. Barthélemy, one of the most challenging airports to land at in the world, and this is how planes approach it.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness me.
The C5M Galaxy took off too slow, forcing the Airbus A330 behind it to go around. This Boeing 757 was taking off when it had an engine failure, causing a fire in the engine.
No, it's just trying to take off. Blew a motor.
Fire crews quickly responded to the scene, and this happened at John Wayne Airport in California. This F-15 was taking off when suddenly it had a compressor stall, causing flames to shoot out of the engine. This Boeing 787 was taking off from Poland, but had to abort due to a problem with its right engine. This Cessna 182 in Colombia had to make an emergency landing with only one wheel. Luckily, no one was injured. This fighter jet being chased by another fighter jet. This is known as a dogfight, and you can see how the jet that's being chased is deploying flares to avoid getting shot by missiles. This was at an airshow in Sweden, so luckily they weren't actually fighting and both of the jets were just creepins. This is how 2 helicopters would drop soldiers into an active battlefield. Luckily, the shooting is not real, and this was a practice. This person stopped on the side of the road when they noticed a jet dropping flares above them. This Airbus A330 had to make an emergency landing after a problem with its left engine. You can see that only the right engine was used for reverse thrust. These Boeing 737 pilots taking off like a fighter jet, resulting in a bank angle warning. This C-130 flying with its door open. This plane made an emergency landing on a highway and now it has to take off. This Airbus A380 had an unstable approach, causing it to go around. This Airbus A350 pilot making a super smooth landing in Amsterdam. This Airbus A300 braking as hard as possible, causing smoke to come out of the brakes. This Airbus A380 landing hard. This F-35 showing off its VTOL capabilities, which means it can stay still mid-air. This small plane is also capable of dropping fire retardant. This Airbus A321 was landing at an airport in Sweden when these cool vortices started to appear behind the wing.
We're landing! We're landing! 2, 1.
This pilot doing a high G maneuver in an F-16. This Boeing 747 flying too low over San Francisco if it weren't for it being an airshow performance.
Para ocasiones de salida,
This was at San Francisco Fleet Week, and the huge 747-400 made multiple low passes over the bay. This Airbus A319 making a low pass over a crowd at an airshow in Slovakia. This Boeing 777X making a very steep takeoff and then some very steep turns. This was at an airshow in Dubai. These two jets shooting at a target. This Airbus A350 was trying to land at an airport in Chicago, but had to abort due to wind shear, resulting in a touch and go. And last but not least, this Airbus A321 landing in a storm, touching down with his nose wheel first. This Airbus A380 looks like it's hovering while approaching Dallas Airport.
Look at it, for real. Looks like it's just kind of hovering there. It's wild. I almost want to stop on the side of the road so you can
This is an optical illusion that is actually pretty common. This Airbus A330 bounced before landing in Boston. This is how planes pick up banners. This Red Bull helicopter showing off. This pilot stalling on purpose as an aerobatic display at an air show. This Boeing 767 starting up for the first time after an engine change, resulting in smoke and fire coming out of the engine. And this is completely normal. This helicopter deploying more than 100 flares in just a few seconds. This F-18 doing a barrel roll with its landing gear out. This is how pushing back a Boeing 737 looks. This Airbus A380 landing didn't go as planned and the huge plane almost veered off the runway. This resulted in a go-around. This Airbus A319 landing sideways in a crosswind at Bristol Airport. This plane landed unusually hard, but at least one guy enjoyed it. This Airbus A380 showing off its engine power when blasting off from a wet runway. person submitted their first solo landing. This Boeing 777X taking off really fast, likely doing a performance test. This Boeing 737 landing at John Wayne Airport landed really hard during Storm Hillary, and then its landing gear collapsed. Here you can see sparks flying as the engine scrapes across the ground.
There's sparks outside.
The plane finally came to a stop, unable to taxi to the gate, with one of its engines resting on the ground. Luckily, no one was injured. These two planes flying by with a surprise. This Airbus A320 fighting a crosswind while landing at Bristol Airport. These two planes sharing a runway at Birmingham Airport. This Boeing 767 taking off from Antarctica, creating a cloud of snow behind it. This US Air Force C-17 pushing back on its own using reverse thrust. When it started taxiing, it blew a gazebo into the crowd. And after taking off, it came back around for a low flyby. This Joss Gripen jet was flying really slow when another jet almost hit it. Luckily, they managed to barely avoid each other. This hot air balloon in Sweden had clearance to pass over an airport, but as they were passing over it, the wind stopped and they couldn't move. They maintained their altitude so the plane below them could still take off, and this is how it looked. This Airbus A330 that was taking off when at the last second a flock of birds struck the plane, causing damage to the engine. The engine started vibrating, so the pilots declared an emergency and had to return to the airport. The plane then had to land while overweight, since it was supposed to burn its fuel from Dublin to Chicago. But they landed safely and luckily no one was injured. A fire broke out next to this plane at Melbourne Airport in Australia after a ground vehicle caught on fire. The plane wasn't damaged and luckily no one was injured. This Finnair Boeing 757 was taking off from Helsinki when a large eagle flew into the engine. This person was laying down at the end of a runway when a plane came in for landing.
I can't see it!
This plane got struck by lightning. This Boeing 777X doing a dangerously steep takeoff to show off at an airshow. Takeoffs like these are obviously not possible with passengers, but this was at the 2022 Farnborough Airshow. This guest at an airshow got a free ride in a plane, but when the pilot got out, the guest stole the plane and was not very good at flying.
That is not the prescribed method for a takeoff. Yikes! Oh, buddy, pull back! No, now he's coming this way. Stop! Ah! No, 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 no! Oh, dear me.
As you might have guessed, this was staged, but whoever was flying did a good job acting. This Airbus A319 flying really close to another plane. Then they did it again, but this time even closer. This was at an airshow in Slovakia. This F-16 went a little too fast at an airshow, almost breaking the sound barrier.
I don't know. Oh, wait a minute.
The C-27 making a very steep approach.
Keď lietadlo pomocou sklzu vykoná mimoriadne správne pristátie, počas ktorého sa lietadlo nerozbieha, ale efektívne vytráca výšku a dostáva sa do výšky podrovnania a dosadne na vzletovú a pristávaciu dráhu na minimálnej vzdialenosti a pri najbližšej možnosti opustenia dráhy, to znamená pri najbližšej rolovačke.
This is the US Air Force Thunderbirds flying very low over a beach. This Piper Cub pilot is actually very skilled, but during this airshow act he tried to fly as bad as possible, resulting in 2 wing strikes.
Hey, Tor, look out. Liz, he's coming at you.
Well, actually, he might have figured it out. I think he's working his way back over to the runway. Well, I don't know if he can hear us at all, but if you pull back on the stick, the houses get smaller. You push forward on the stick, the houses get bigger. If you pull back on the stick far enough, the houses get bigger. Here too, so Zippy's gonna shoot each other. Look at him. He's getting that Karate Kid move right there.
Wow. I don't think you figured out that crosswind wing. You got the upwind wing in the air.
Oh, what is this?
That's a real wing dinger.
Yeah, that is. Oh, gosh.
This is how an FA-18 shooting sounds.
Sicherheitszone mit dem
This F-111 shooting huge flames known as a dump and burn maneuver. This was at an airshow in Australia and the last ever dump and burn display in the world. This Airbus A321 landed and bounced, almost resulting in a tail strike. This Cessna 180 suffered a ground loop while landing at an airshow. This Embraer 190 had to make an emergency landing without its nose gear. The pilot kept the nose up for as long as possible before coming to a stop, and this happened in the Bahamas. This Airbus A330 had an engine failure 1 hour after leaving the airport, forcing it to dump fuel and return for an emergency landing. Only one engine was used for reverse thrust, but luckily the plane came to a stop. This Boeing 747 landed very hard in Amsterdam. This plane had just touched down when it went off the runway and crashed into a parked helicopter. The pilot lost control while landing in St. Bartholomew, but luckily everyone was okay afterwards. This Beechcraft Bonanza was approaching Oshkosh when it hit another plane's wake turbulence and had a very close call. This Aerosucre Boeing 727 was approaching an airport in Colombia without tower control and without visibility in bad weather conditions, and when they came out of the clouds they noticed they were not really lined up with the runway at all. They then made the decision to abort the landing attempt. This Boeing 737 had an issue with its reverse thrust, forcing it to land in wet conditions without it. This plane entering a spin, basically falling out of the sky. This Boeing 727 pilot couldn't wait to retract the landing gear. It looks like he needed to do it to gain altitude. This Boeing 737 pilot really wanted to take the first exit after landing, using full brakes to make it. It still wasn't enough, so they decided to make a U-turn on the runway. This helicopter dropping a car in Iceland. This Boeing 777 was just about to touch down, but then it started gaining altitude again. In order to land before it was too late, the pilot slammed it into the ground. This Airbus A340 landing too fast due to a flaps issue, forcing it to land without flaps. This Boeing 737 was landing in strong winds when the plane became unstable, almost causing a wing strike. This F-15 had a hydraulic failure, causing the brakes to stop working, and the pilot had to land without them. To stop the jet, the pilot had to use the arrestor hook and a capture cable on the runway.
Runway operations suspended due to cable engagement. Expect runway operations to resume in 45 miles. Go.
This Boeing 767 almost had a tail strike. This Boeing 767 had to go around due to an Airbus A330neo still taking off on the same runway. This Boeing 737 pilot did not want to abort the landing and decided to go through with it despite the strong winds. And this decision resulted in a safe landing. This Boeing 737 bouncing multiple times before finally settling down. This Airbus A310 was about to leave Manchester when a massive fuel leak erupted out of the left wing tank, causing the plane to get evacuated. This Airbus A350 landing in strong crosswinds had to go around. This Airbus A380 approach became unstable, resulting in a go-around.
Oh my goodness, it's a go-around. Wow. Holy cow.
This was at Christchurch Airport in New Zealand, and this is how the second attempt went.
Oh no.
This Boeing 737 making a hard landing in Las Vegas.
Hit a burst here. Shit. 905.
This is an inflatable boat that can fly, and here it is taking off and landing. This person stopped by Death Valley in California and managed to capture these fighter jets training.
Oh my god! Whoa! Dude, I got goosebumps. Holy. Coming in. Woo! Whoa! Oh my god, look it! Whoa!
This Boeing 727 landing at St. Martin, flying extremely low over a crowd of spectators on the beach.
And we are number 2 again, Roller 640.
This ATR-72 landing at Manchester Airport had to abort its landing because of the strong winds. This was the second attempt. This Eurofighter coming straight at the person filming, then making a steep takeoff. This Embraer 145 leaking fuel out of its wing mid-air. According to the person recording, it's a known issue that when the plane is fully fueled, some fuel will overflow through a vent on the underside of the wing. This Boeing 737 landing really shows how air moves over the wings and creates condensation. I captured this video myself the other day on a flight to Stockholm, Sweden. This Spirit plane taking off with a Delta Airbus A321 landing at the same time on the runway next to it. This was in Atlanta, United States. These two F-35s were cleared to make unrestricted climbs, meaning they will climb very quickly after clearing the runway at a very low altitude. And the second one came really close to the trees. Airbus A320 landing hard in a crosswind with a bounce. This is the US Navy Blue Angels taking off together in perfect synchrony. This Airbus A340 taking off from a wet runway, creating a lot of spray. This plane attempting to land in extremely windy conditions had to abort. This was at Wellington Airport in New Zealand. This US Black Hawk helicopter was forced to make an emergency landing on a street in Bucharest, tearing down 2 street lights and stopping traffic, and this person captured it on their dashcam. The helicopter was part of a group of 6 which were rehearsing for the Romanian Air Force Day when it began losing altitude, leading to the emergency landing. Luckily, no one was injured. This Vans RV6 pilot made a hard landing, resulting in a bounce. Despite that, the pilot managed to recover. These planes taking off at the exact same time from San Francisco, making it look like a race. This Delta Airbus A330 landing on the shortest runway at Amsterdam Airport due to the normal runways being closed because of the weather, meaning the big A330-300 had to brake as hard as possible to stop in time in the about 3,000 feet of runway available. They came to a complete stop on the runway and then continued taxiing to the gate. This Boeing 737 landing in New York struck its wing into the ground.
Hey, that wing hit the ground.
It then went around for a second attempt and landed safely with some wing damage. This helicopter dropping a car at an airshow in Sweden. This pilot was doing his 3rd solo flight and was about to land, but bounced multiple times. This could have ended badly, but luckily everything was okay and it was a great learning experience for the pilot. This Boeing 787 had to land with no visibility, meaning the pilots have to trust the computer and the instruments completely.
Approaching minimums.
I'm putting inside.
50, 40, 30, minimums.
Landing.
10, 5.
This race plane was doing a qualifying session at the 2023 Renault Air Races when its engine failed. The pilot was then forced to land without engine power. But he managed to do it safely and skillfully. This Delta flight landing in Omaha, flying through a big thunderstorm. This glider was being pulled by a group of people in order for it to take off, but it didn't gain enough speed and struck its tail on the hill before climbing.
O kurwa. No to tak.
This Fiji Airways Boeing 737 landing hard in a stormy Wellington, New Zealand, resulting in a go-round. According to the submitter, the winds were at 50 knots. Watch as this Boeing 777 engine gets covered by condensation during a takeoff from Amsterdam. This Southwest Boeing 737 landing parallel to a United plane in Denver. These planes passing really close to each other.
And folks, a real nice view now on the left side. If you have your camera still, you can take a nice picture of this other jet.
Jaws 39 Gripen releasing flares while showing off during NATO days in Ostrava. These houses are located right next to London Heathrow, one of the busiest airports in the world. And with planes constantly flying low over them, sleeping can be difficult. However, there are restrictions in place between 11:30 p.m. and 6 a.m. in order to reduce noise. Would you want to live here? Comment down below. These people standing behind an Airbus A320 taking off, which can be quite dangerous. This is very common at Skiathos Airport in Greece, and luckily this time no one was injured. This Airbus A320 was forced to divert and make an emergency landing after suffering a partial hydraulic failure.
And as I said earlier, we will stop on the runway because once we stop, I don't have any ability to turn my steering wheel to turn off the runway. So.
Seatbelt fasten until the seatbelt sign is turned off and keep the aisles clear.
This Airbus A340 was landing in Boston, but had to abort, resulting in a touch and go.
A340 600. Oh wow, it's doing a go around. Oh, she's doing a go around.
This F-22 Raptor climbing vertically, then falling down like a leaf. This cargo Boeing 747 landing at LAX was forced to go around at the last second due to wind shear, but it was too late and one of its engines struck the ground. After that, the go-around was performed and the aircraft diverted to another airport and landed safely. This instructor showing how to do a forward slip, which is used to lose altitude quickly without gaining excessive airspeed. This Airbus A321 landing hard, resulting in a bounce at Innsbruck Airport. These two F-15s making unrestricted climbs. This Boeing B-52 landed at RIA 2023, an airshow in the UK, to show off the plane. As you can see, it's so big it needs a parachute to come to a stop. When it was time to taxi back, the pilot taxied sideways to show off the B-52's ability to do so. But by doing this, the plane struck the runway lights and took them out one by one, destroying 18 of them. Luckily, the plane wasn't damaged and the lights are easy to replace. This plane was approaching an airport in Armenia when they hit a bird.
Minimum 200. $100. 50, 40, 30, 20. Retard, retard, retard.
Luckily, it didn't do much damage and they could still land safely. This Boeing 737 taking off from Birmingham got picked up by the strong winds right away, forcing it sideways. This Boeing 737 landing very hard before the touchdown zone due to wind shear. The person recording was not really prepared for the early landing, but still managed to catch the touchdown. According to them, the plane was damaged because of the hard landing, and this happened at an airport in the Caribbean. This Royal Air Force pilot reacting fast after takeoff to avoid a bird. these planes landing in a foggy Amsterdam, creating a cool effect. This Boeing 777 landing during a storm in Paris suffered a strong wind gust at the worst moment, resulting in this. This F-16 flying low and firing its weapons at a ground target, also known as a strafe pass. This F-22 making a high-speed pass over a crowded beach. This person was landing in Los Angeles, and parallel to them a plane was taking off. These planes landing at the exact same time next to each other in San Francisco. This Boeing 737 making a very smooth landing in Las Vegas. This is how some planes, like this ATR-72, de-ice their wings. When the rubber is extended, the ice falls off. This Airbus A380 was too high when approaching Nice airport in France and missed the runway, resulting in a go-around. And this was the second attempt. This Airbus A321neo making a hard landing. This F-16 doing an engine test with full afterburner, burning 11 liters of fuel per second. This Boeing 737 landing in Los Angeles had to make an S-turn to create some more space between them and the 787 taking off on the runway.
Runway 24 left, clear for takeoff.
This will slow down the Southwest 737, which was next arrival on 24 left. Air Tahiti Nui still in position. So we'll do a little S-turn action here. Air Tahiti Nui still on the runway. I expect this plane to possibly do a go-around. Very tight.
462, go around, maintain 2000, fly runway.
Here we go, going around.
Despite the S-turn, the distance between them was too short and the 737 had to go around.
Just a little reference, Air Tahiti Nui just taking off.
This Ryanair plane struggling against the wind while taking off. This DHL Airbus A300 was taking off from Amsterdam when it suffered a bird strike. Pilots contacted the tower, but decided to continue the flight and landed safely at its destination. This plane struggling to land in crosswinds at Manchester Airport. This P-51D Mustang making a low pass. This F-22 Raptor climbing at an airshow. Watch as this Boeing 777X makes an impressive flying display at the Dubai Airshow. F-16s flying by low over Telluride as a 4th of July celebration.
Oh my gosh, I'm chilled. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
This C-130 pilot in Sweden decided to make a low flyby just a few feet above the ground, but that was too low and not allowed, causing the pilot to get suspended. pilot later said he regrets the stunt and that it was just a joke. This Airbus A321neo had to abort its takeoff due to an oil pressure alarm.
It was about 40 minutes ago. And the status of the 380 currently on boarding. Harry Kerr is the Wizz Air next. No, we've got the Orny. And a closed military jet, EasyJet in and EasyJet out again. Very, very busy for EasyJet here at Gatwick, guys. I think pretty much the same as Manchester, I would say. Osvaldo, right, the Emirates 380 is currently...
This also forced the plane behind it to go around. This DC-9 pushing back without assistance, known as a power back. Boeing 737 landing in Leeds, England, was forced to go around at the last second. This Airbus A330 left its gear down for longer than usual. The person filming assumed it was to cool down the brakes. This C-17 flying really low through Brisbane in Australia.
Yeah, baby. That's perfect balance.
The Royal Australian Air Force pilot was rehearsing the stunt for the River Fire Festival. This Cessna 150 landing on grass with floats instead of wheels. This pilot stalling in a P-51D Mustang. Airbus A380 landing at Amsterdam Airport, creating a massive water spray. The Airbus A330 making a super smooth touchdown at Las Vegas Airport. This Boeing 737 retracted its landing gear really early.
Wow, that gear was up so early. I've never seen that so early before.
This Airbus A320neo landing hard after flaring too late, resulting in a bounce followed by a go-around. This was at Amsterdam Airport, and this was the second attempt. This helicopter was about to land in a field, but it was too dry. This is how spin recovery practice looks. This Airbus A321neo was using autoland in low visibility, but at the last second the plane began veering off the center line and the pilots had to take control.
110, 100. Minimum 40, flare 30, 20, 10, retard, 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 retard.
Roll out. Spoilers. Reverse is green. In this cell. Auto brake off. Deviated so much.
These Blue Angels F-18s showing off at the San Francisco Fleet Week Airshow. These planes flying next to each other.
And folks, a real nice view now on the left side. If you have your cameras on, you can take a nice picture of this other jet.
This Airbus A380 landing sideways in a crosswind at London Heathrow.
Skill of these pilots. Oh, no. Has he got it? He's going to go around. Is he going to go around? Oh my God, look at it. Wow.
This was during Storm Dennis in 2020. This C-17 making a low pass over Brisbane, Australia as practice for an airshow. This Cessna was taking off when it suffered a failure, forcing it to land again.
Whoa, whoa.
These US Air Force Thunderbirds showing off with a knife edge pass. This person spotted a Boeing 747 flying below them over Cairo, Egypt. This person noticed a visible shockwave over an Airbus A320 wing. This happens when the air over the wing reaches local speeds above Mach 1. This Boeing 747 hit a wind gust right before touching down, resulting in a long float. By the time the plane touched down, not enough runway was left to safely stop, forcing it to go around. This was the second attempt. This Boeing 777 overshot the touchdown zone, forcing it to go around. This Airbus A340 had to go around, which made these young plane spotters very excited.
Bro, there are 5 go-rounds and a mini runway changes. Imagine it goes around. Go around! Go around! No way!
This Delta Boeing 747 making a low flyby before its last ever landing at Minneapolis Airport.
700 feet.
700 feet.
Less than that. Boy, oh boy.
Woo, woo, woo! Wow! Yes!
This person was approaching LaGuardia Airport in New York and captured this video showing the scenic approach. This plane hit the runway with its nose wheel first, resulting in bouncing and a go-around. This video shows how a rapid cabin depressurization looks in an MD-83. This Embraer 190 landing at Amsterdam Airport kept its nose wheel in the air for as long as possible for aerodynamic braking.
It still indicates parallel arrivals, which obviously isn't the case. Hey. Hey. Captain Wheelie. This looks like the hallmark Captain Wheelie landing. I think this was him or her.
These three planes flying close to each other at cruising altitude over the Atlantic. This Boeing 737 flying through a total solar eclipse. This Boeing 757 was taking off from Spain when the right-hand engine suffered repeated compressor stalls, causing flames to shoot out of it and forcing the plane to divert to a nearby airport. The plane later landed safely. This Airbus A380 was landing in Dubai when it hit a departing plane's wake turbulence, forcing it to go around.
As you noticed, we had to discontinue our approach today on the first attempt, and the reason was because we encountered some heavy turbulence from the aircraft ahead of us.
This Boeing 737 was forced to make an emergency landing at Perth Airport in Australia after its flaps didn't extend, which meant the plane had to land with more speed than usual. This PC-12 was landing in St. Bartholomew at one of the most challenging airports in the world and had to go around since it was too high. And this was the second attempt. This Boeing 777 aborted its takeoff from London Heathrow and applied full brakes, causing them to smoke. The reason is unknown. This F-15 had to make an emergency landing after an issue with its hydraulics, meaning it couldn't brake on its own. In order to stop, it had to release its tailhook and catch an arrestor cable on the runway. This Airbus A321neo landing in windy conditions at Madeira Airport. This plane was in a headwind so strong it could stay still mid-air. This Boeing 747 pilot flying close to an Airbus A380 and recording it up close. This Airbus A321neo landing with a bounce during a storm in London. This Boeing 737 was taking off from Warsaw Airport when the pilot suddenly decided to reject the takeoff. The pilot later told the passengers it was due to a malfunctioning airspeed indicator, and this resulted in a 2-hour delay. This Boeing 747 was about to take off from Miami, but as it started its takeoff roll, the engine failed, resulting in smoke and an aborted takeoff. This Airbus A380 landing in strong winds made a hard landing at London Heathrow. This Citation CJ4 making a dramatic and challenging approach into Telluride Airport in Colorado. Pilot of a brand new Airbus A220 at London City Airport made a wrong turn while taxiing to the runway, putting it on a taxiway they weren't allowed on. Because of this, they got stuck and had to be towed back to the apron.
He's gone the wrong turn in. He can't know. The A220 should be backtracking on the runway, and he hasn't. Oh, what are we going to do? They're going to tug it. They've got to tug it. There we go. Pushback is on. This is unusual, folks.
This Airbus A380 spraying a lot of water while landing at an airport in Switzerland. This Airbus A321 attempting to land in Manchester during a storm was not successful and floated down the entire runway. This was the second attempt. These Vietnam Airlines Boeing 787 pilots landing with no visibility.
Approaching minimums.
Approaching inside.
50, 40, 30. Minimums.
Landing.
10, 5.
Sweep like that.
This cargo Airbus A330 had a missing winglet as it was arriving in a crosswind at Manchester Airport. According to the comments, it was missing because the plane hit a light pole at another airport. This Boeing 787 flying from Bogota to London suffered an issue with its engine in the middle of the Atlantic and diverted to Terceira, a small remote island, for an emergency landing. This Airbus A380 made a go-around at the last second while landing in Birmingham. And this was the second attempt. This DHL Cessna 208 flying dangerously low while approaching St. Bartholomew. This is known as one of the world's most challenging airports to land at, but this approach was lower than usual. This Airbus A320 attempting to land at Manchester Airport in a storm had to go around. This British Airways Boeing 747 making a touch and go at London Heathrow. The reason is unknown, but the plane landed safely on its second attempt. This Airbus A380 landing at Birmingham Airport had to use a lot of rudder to maintain control in windy conditions. This is how the head-up display looks on a Boeing 787 landing in Gran Canaria, Spain. This Boeing 737 blew out its front tire on landing, causing the nose gear to collapse. The plane had flown from Liverpool to Dublin, and luckily no one was injured. This pilot took off and pitched too high, resulting in the plane almost stalling. Luckily, he managed to recover and could climb afterwards. This twin otter landing at St. Barthélemy, one of the world's most challenging airports. This helicopter pilot training with a cone. This Boeing 787 engine starting up with a flame. This typically happens when the engine is started for the first time. These three Royal Air Force F-15s making unrestricted climbs. This Lancer LX-7 overran the runway and went through a fence onto a road where it collided with a car.
Not good. Not good.
According to the pilot, the power lever ball came off, and with the power stuck at idle, he couldn't reverse to slow down, resulting in the brakes fading. This happened at an airport in Texas, and luckily everyone was okay. This Airbus A350 battling a crosswind at Amsterdam Airport. This PC-12 was forced to go around at St. Barthélemy. For comparison, here is a successful attempt. This person captured an F-35 flying low overhead as it was approaching the runway. This Cessna 150 pilot landing in windy conditions. This Airbus A320 landing at Scenic Airport had to abort because of the stormy conditions. This was the second attempt. These US Navy Blue Angels jets showing off over a crowded beach. This Airbus A321 landing in Mexico City had to go around at the last second.
300 minimum. 200. 100. 50, 40, 30, 20. Retard, retard, retard.
This P-51 Mustang flying in formation, seen from the pilot's point of view. This Cessna 185 equipped with skis landing on a frozen lake. This is what happens if a plane violates a restricted airspace.
Aircraft 25 southwest of Homestead Air Force Base and Turkey Point Nuclear Station. Flying over the Keys. This is a USF Armed Air Defense fighter on a simulated guard. You've been intercepted. If you just transition, please acknowledge the radio call and rock your wings. Contact Lucky 21 on 123.1.
The plane was intercepted by NORAD as part of an exercise.
Exercise. November 268 Charlie Papa, Cap 822. Simulated, no response.
Lucky 21.
This C-130 landing without one of its engines. Luckily, having one engine out is no problem for the C-130. These people were standing at the end of our runway and were lucky enough to see two jets make a low pass before climbing. This Boeing 757 landing in Antarctica. This is Gibraltar Airport, which has a road crossing the runway where anyone can walk when planes are not taking off or landing. And I took this video myself when I was there. This Boeing 747 suffered a hard touchdown after flaring too late. This KC-390 making a difficult landing in a strong crosswind. This plane passing by low while departing from an airport in Australia. This C-160 starting up after a long time with a lot of smoke. This is how airport marshals guide planes into their designated parking spot. This plane had to abort its takeoff, occupying the runway that a Boeing 787 was approaching. But the Boeing 787 pilot didn't hear the air traffic controller, instructing them to go around multiple times.
2035, go around runway 14.
Clear to land runway 14, Chinese 2035.
China 2035, discontinue approach, report, going round runway 14.
Clear to land runway 14, Chinese 2035. She's going off, sir. Confirm, go round.
China Eastern 2035, go round, runway 14.
We're going round, runway 14, China Eastern 2035.
It wasn't until another pilot told him that he understood and went around. On the second attempt, they landed safely. This Airbus A380 turning too fast, damaging its nose wheel. This Challenger 300 making a difficult landing in Dublin during a storm.
Oh my god.
This Air India Boeing 747 waving its wings after its last ever takeoff from Mumbai before retiring. This Ryanair Boeing 737 made a beautiful golden hour approach into Dublin, ending with a rough touchdown. This Boeing 767 blew one of its tires while taking off from Detroit. Pilots had to continue the takeoff as it was too late to stop and continued to its destination. There they declared an emergency due to the blown tire and landed safely. This DC-9 making a dramatic approach into Anchorage Airport in Alaska. This Airbus A220 struggling to land in strong winds at Dublin Airport. This was the first attempt.
Folks, don't get yourselves worked up. Oh, thought he was going to go up. Yep.
And this was the second attempt.
Second go around for Air France.
And this was the third and final attempt. This Airbus A321 had to abort its takeoff after a problem with its instruments. This This Airbus A350 made a very short takeoff from Minneapolis. This Airbus A350 is struggling to take off with only one of its engines. This was a test, simulating an engine failure at V1. This Boeing 737 suffered a flap failure while descending into Minneapolis and made an emergency landing without flaps.
Southwest 2020, nice job on the roll, to left hand 260.
Luckily, the plane landed safely with no further issues. This Airbus A321neo encountered St. Elmo's fire, a visible luminous electrical discharge. These two planes taking off at the same time from San Francisco. Here is a time-lapse showing the approach into Svalbard Airport, the world's northernmost airport with commercial flights. This is how a Boeing 777 landing gear looks up close. This C-17 showing off by stopping very quickly and then reversing using reverse thrust. However, while reversing, one of its engines suffered a compressor stall. This Boeing 747 landing in a windy Amsterdam nearly struck its engine into the runway. This Embraer 190 had to go around at Norwich Airport. This Airbus A300 landing in crosswinds with a bounce. This Boeing 737 was forced to go around in strong winds. The student pilot landing a Cessna 172, battling winds gusting up to 33 knots.
Bust it up a little bit.
Holy crap. Wind 2900 at 20 gusting 33.
Got plenty of runway, so. Yep. A little fast, pulling power out, a little high. Riding it down, riding it down. Nicely done.
This Boeing 737 went too fast while turning onto the runway, resulting in its nose wheel skidding.
Mick Best, good afternoon. What's the smoke there? What was that? It's not a bit of a skid on the front wheel there, was that? We'll have to play that one back. He's expediting, there's an aircraft at 2 miles.
This Boeing 767 hit wind shear while landing at London Heathrow. This Cessna 152 pilot practicing spin recovery.
Good. Yep. Power idle. Right rudder. There you go. Woo! Nice. We can do about 3.5 spins that time. Yeah, I'm a no. Nice. Good. Woo! That was all you.
This Boeing 777 had to abort its takeoff from Amsterdam after a computer issue. And this was the second attempt. This Eurocopter 135 pilot showing off.
Okretanja valka tehnici, Eurocopter 135 odradio još jedan put koristio praviće pokazatelje.
This Airbus A330 was taking off from Manchester when its right engine failed with explosive force. Pilots quickly aborted the takeoff and brought the aircraft to an emergency stop on the runway. Inspection later revealed that a turbine blade had attached.
Yeah, well, I'm just waiting for them to attach. Lovely.
This Airbus A330 touched down too late at Manchester Airport.
Whoa. That was long.
These planes flying low through a series of valleys in the UK. This place is called the Mach Loop and is often used for training low-level flying. This pilot landing in Mexico fighting strong winds.
$100, 50, 40, 30, 20, retard, 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 retard.
This Boeing 777 landing at London Heathrow really needs a wash. This Boeing 757 made a very steep climb from Las Vegas. This Cessna 182 flipped over after getting hit by a strong gust of wind.
Tower, good morning, United 2604, run the visual for 26 left. 2604, Las Vegas Tower, 16026, gust 30, runway 26 left, clear to land.
That's 3362, rolling out the Yankee, hold short on 19 left on Bravo. 753 on November, crash right.
This happened in Las Vegas, and luckily no one was injured. This F-35 showing off at the Westfield International Airshow. This F-15 started leaking fuel just before taxiing to the runway.
Because its drop tank was also fuel, it just started spinning out of it. But they've said they've never seen it before, so they're not too sure what to do. I'll imagine they're going to scrub this flight, to be honest.
This heavy Airbus A340 using up almost the entire runway to take off. This Aerosucre Boeing 727 crew retracted the landing gear immediately after takeoff, which can be dangerous. Airlines typically require the crew to establish a positive rate of climb before retracting the gear. This Boeing 777 touched down hard in Montreal in windy conditions. This Boeing 737 pilot landing in windy conditions at Newcastle Airport.
Minimums.
This Boeing 737 taking off from Chicago flew into a thunderstorm.
Well, folks, after that big pep talk about all that drink choice, guess what? We didn't know there was going to be weather out here, so...
This Boeing 777 landing without using its right engine's reverse thrust. This Lufthansa A380 hit strong wake turbulence from the Emirates A380 ahead of it.
Caution wake turbulence. We'll see if the Lufthansa battles any of the wake turbulence. Look at that, there goes the A380. It's battling. Lights, but we saw it.
This Boeing 747 landing hard in Los Angeles. This motorbike jumping over a flying plane. This was at Central Coast Airshow 2024. This Cessna Caravan arriving in Iceland with winds gusting up to 47 knots. This Airbus A320 landing in Lithuania was hit by a strong wind gust. This Boeing 787 landing in Perth, Australia had to go around. This Boeing 777 approaching lower than usual. For comparison, this is what a typical 777 approach at the same airport looks like. This Airbus A320 landing in Storm Isha was forced to go around and did it with a steep climb. This Boeing 777's nose gear retracted later than the main gear. This Boeing 747 taking off from Amsterdam into a crosswind. This Airbus A330 left its landing gear down after taking off. According to the person recording, the A330 had been stored for 2 months, causing the brakes to accumulate a fair amount of dust. And this, combined with the hot temperature, prompted the crew to leave the gear down to clear the dust and cool the brakes. This Airbus A350 making an incredibly steep takeoff from Berlin. This was done at an airshow to showcase the plane's abilities. These planes taking off at the same time from San Francisco. This Falcon 6X making a very steep climb after taking off.
Whoa!
This Piper J5 Cub pilot approaching the runway at a very steep angle, using a forward slip to land. Enjoy this Airbus A340 approaching JFK using the challenging Canarsie approach with a steep turn on final.
Approaching 13 left.
400. $300. 20, retard, retend, 5.
This Boeing 777 was climbing out of Japan when the left-hand engine failed and its cowling ripped off. The crew had to stop the climb and return to the airport. Luckily, the plane landed safely and no one was injured. According to the JTSB, the fan blades had fractured, resulting in engine damage and the cowling being ripped off. Scattered parts from the engine also damaged the airframe, but didn't seriously affect the flight performance of the plane. This F-35 passing by low, making a vapor cone.
High speed pass!
This Black Hawk firing weapons and dropping troops. This was a military demonstration in Tampa, Florida, and of course the weapons were firing blanks. This person captured was known as pilot's glory, an optical phenomenon where a halo encircles a plane's shadow against clouds. This student pilot simulating an engine failure in a Cessna 172. This is how powerful an Airbus A330 jet blast is. This F5 hit a flock of birds during an airshow in Poland.
At this point, we would like to say to you from the entire Patrouille Swiss team, thank you for watching this spectacular and breathtaking show.
Luckily, there was no mechanical damage and the jet landed safely. This Boeing 777 landing with no visibility.
Land 3.
$100. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Back up. Check.
These two Dutch Chinook helicopters training low flying in the UK. This old DHC 4A Caribou making a steep approach. This person captured the July 4th fireworks over San Francisco from a plane. This Boeing 737 taking off with a headwind rotated later than usual and came close to the end of the runway. This was at Norwich Airport. This Airbus A330 had to go around after a faster than usual descent rate during the flare. This Boeing 787's landing gear door opened very early.
Citation 2 Papa Alpha, Los Vegas Tower, cross runway 1 right, taxiway whiskey. 122 Papa Alpha, citation.
But on newer 787s, this is an automatic feature designed to reduce the time for the gear to retract and improve climbing performance. These Blue Angels jets flying really close to each other. Their C-130 then did a low pass at the same airshow. This Airbus A320 landing in Las Vegas couldn't touch down in time and had to go around. That's it for this special episode. Thank you for watching and supporting this series. Watch more by clicking on the screen, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.